The movie starts with two young members of the church, Barnes and Paxton, going to a house to answer a request from a man seeking more information regarding Jesus Christ. On their way to the house, they try to talk to people about religion, but nobody seems interested. A group of young girls approach them for a picture, but a girl plays a prank on Paxton and pulls down her skirt. As Paxton is feeling humiliated, Barnes tells her not to think about what others say. Barnes locks their bikes at the entrance, and both of them go to the house. An old man, Reed, opens the door. They explain the purpose of their visit and hand over a book to read. Paxton starts speaking about God and religion as if she is giving some sort of test. Considering the weather, Reed asks them if they would like to come in, to which they say they can come in only if there is another woman in the house. Reed tells them that he has a wife inside. The women agree to enter the house and ask Reed to bring his wife to the room. Reed takes their coat and asks them to sit. After some time, Reed comes back with drinks, telling them that her wife is being a bit shy to come out, but the women insist that his wife needs to be in the same room, but he smoothly moves the discussion to a religious topic which diverts the women's attention. During the discussion, Reed speaks about the fact that he has been looking for that one true religion. Paxton starts speaking about how their church was established. Reed takes the opportunity to speak about the history of their church and puts a book in front of them, which makes them realize Mr. Reed reads a lot about religion. To keep the environment interesting, Reed jokingly asks them to guess which pie his wife is making, and going by the aroma, they guess it is a blueberry pie. During the discussion, Reed notices a mark on Barnes's hand. Reed seeks their permission to ask an awkward question before they wrap up the evening, and the women agree to it. He asks them about their view on polygamy, which makes them uncomfortable. Reed tells them that this is related to their discussion. Barnes mentioned that it was the need of the hour, with so much bloodshed happening at that time it was done, but Reed believes it was done to legitimize the affairs of Joseph Smith. As they continue their discussion, Barnes asks Reed to bring his wife to the room. When Reed leaves to bring his wife, Barnes turns the candle and sees that it says blueberry pie candle, which makes her nervous. Reed comes back to take them further inside to meet his wife. Barnes pretends there is a call from the church and Reed gives them time to talk. Barnes and Paxton decide to leave, but they realize that the key is in their coat, which Reed had taken earlier. They decide to walk, but the door is locked. They try to call the bishop and others from church, but there is no connection. Just then, light goes out. They hesitantly walk through the dark passage and reach a room where they tell Reed that they need to leave as they have received a call from the church. When they take their coat, Barnes realizes that the key is not in her coat. When Paxton checks, she finds the key in her pocket. They look at each other surprisingly, since the key was in Barnes' coat. They ask Reed to open the front lock, but he tells them that it will not open until morning since there is a timer on the lock, but tells them that they can leave using the back door. The women seem nervous to go to the back of the house. Reed tells them that they are free to leave whenever they want, but they shouldn't lie about it. They tell him that they have not lied to him, to which Reed responds that they could not have received the call in the house as there is no connection due to the metal in the walls. They ask Reed which door will lead them outside, to which Reed responds any unless they have a preference. Paxton asks Reed to bring his wife to help them walk out from the back of the house. Reed asks a counter question, if they still believe he has a wife when there is no oven or blueberry pie, and he did that to show that they believe in something just because somebody asked them to believe in it. Barnes asks Reed if they can use his phone, to which Reed says he doesn't have a phone. The whole situation has made them nervous. Barnes goes ahead and opens one of the doors. Her tears come out due to fear, and then she checks the next door. Both the doors are leading to a basement. They ask Reed to help them get out of the house. Reed asks them to come and stand in his place. Reed then places the game of Monopoly and its various iterations in front of them, alongside some religious texts. He then brings their attention to 12 gods born before Jesus, and says all instances in Jesus' life written in the book are only iterations of events taken from the previous gods. He then writes belief on one door and disbelief on the other door and asks them to choose a door based on their faith. Reed tells them that religious books are hollow, just like these games, and throws them on the floor. Barnes comes forward to pick up the religious book and sees a knife. While Paxton chooses the disbelief door to get out, Barnes selects the belief door. Barnes still believes in her faith and disagrees with Reed's analysis. She tells him that he has looked over glaring differences between Jesus and other gods, and that is why she chose the door on which belief is written. Listening to Barnes, Paxton decides to join her. On climbing down the stairs, they reach a room that has no exit. They try to find an exit, and while they are doing that, they hear Reed coming down. Barnes was able to get her hands on a knife while in the room and gives it to Paxton and tells her that the code word to use the knife is magic underwear. When the door opens, a woman appears with a pie in her hand. She puts the pie on the table and bends down with her hands behind her back. Reed can talk to them through a pipe. He tells them he wants to be a witness to a miracle where the woman whom he calls prophet will become unalive after eating the poisonous pie, but she will be resurrected by God. The woman dies after eating the pie. Reed asks them to check her pulse and breath, and they do not find any sign of life. Just then, the house bell rings. Believing it must be someone from the church, both start screaming, but Reed closes the door on his way out. It turns out to be a bishop from the church looking for the women, but Reed tells him no one visited him today from that church. They then pull the rag to get their hands on the matchsticks to start the fire and send the smoke through the pipe to let others know they are there. Reed comes back to the room before they can grab the matchstick, but the doorbell rings again, which allows them to get their hands on the matchbox. The box is thick. They could not slide it from under the door. However, they managed to get their hands on some matchsticks. When Reed checks the door, it is the bishop again as he wants to give a book to read. When they come back, Paxton realizes that the dead woman moved from its position, but Barnes doesn't think so, and asks Paxton to help her in lighting the matchstick. As they are trying, Paxton feels something behind her, and it turns out to be the dead woman. The dead woman describes what she saw on the other side and says it was not real. Reed enters the basement and takes the woman away. He then tells Barnes and Paxton what they witnessed is a miracle and he can make them experience the same thing. Barnes tells him it was a magic trick and not a miracle, and the woman was hallucinating. Reed tells her that it was not a trick. As Barnes sees Paxton taking out the knife from her pocket, she says the word magic underwear, and Reed slits her throat. Reed then cuts her arm and takes out a device from there and tells Paxton that she will not be able to come back as she is just a program and not real. He tells Paxton that we all live in a simulation, and when Paxton dies, she will pass through death and wake up in the real world. Paxton tells Reed that the device is a birth control device and not a microchip, and she doesn't believe in his simulation theory. She says this was all scripted by Reed. She tells Reed that she thinks another woman came to the room when Barnes and Paxton went to the basement door upon hearing the bell, and the body was replaced during that time. The woman then read the scripted story that Reed gave to her, and when she said it is not real, it meant the miracle was not real. Reed tells her that there needs to be another entrance in the basement for Paxton's theory to be true. Paxton sees water not accumulating on the floor despite the water leaking from the ceiling. She removes the table and sees water going inside the floor. She removes the mud and finds a door leading further down. Reed mentions if she is right, then there should be another body down there. Reed tells her she should only go down if she is ready to find one true religion. Paxton goes downstairs and finds a dead body. Reed closes the door on her. As she goes through the dark, scary room, she sees her bike lock on the door. She opens the lock with the key in her coat and enters a room where she comes across malnourished women being kept in small cages. Reed enters the room and asks if Paxton has figured out the one true religion. Paxton begins by telling him that when they arrived and Reed went inside to get his wife, he took the bike lock key from Barnes's coat, went outside, and hid their bikes, but he put the key back in Paxton's coat, which was done by him intentionally as he chose Paxton to be in this place, and not because Paxton chose to be there. Reed wants her to believe that there is only one true religion, which is control. He tells Paxton that the church controls their lives by dictating who to worship, where to worship, and what to wear under the clothes, and says the word magic underwear, at which she stabs his throat and runs. She reaches the same room, which has 2 doors. It takes her to the same basement, and she sees the door on the floor open. As she turns around, Reed stabs her. Believing she is going to die, she starts praying. Reed drags himself to her, and as he is about to kill her, he is hit by a nail-studded wooden plan which kills him. It turns out to be Barnes, who uses her last bit of energy to save Paxton. Using the house model in the room, Paxton is able to find her way out of the house, and the movie ends there.